Good morning, my fellow Canadians. Well, coffee and inspiration first thing in the morning. Wilding. Look up the word wilding. This came into prominence in New York. I won't give you all the answers. Look it up yourself. I bring this up because what I'm seeing is something I've gone on about before. Seeing a good movement, perhaps a moral movement or a movement propelled by a desire for social justice or accountability, and see these movements get hijacked by fanatics and opportunists. Now, I've gone on before about fanatics. Fanatics of any stripe bother me. They scare me. Because fanatics, I don't care if it's a political fanatic, a religious fanatic, a social fanatic, white supremacist, loony left, I don't care. Fanatics of any stripe scare me because they are willing to do the most horrible things. If it is in their head, they've justified this as necessary. And I point to the communists, I point to the fascists, I point to the Nazis. Normally good and moral people caught up in these movements and in crowd mentality and doing things that they would never dream of doing as a solo individual. What brought this to mind was that Chaz or CHOP, whatever you wish to call it, that occupation zone in Seattle, and the gutless response of the authorities. A video surfaced. I think it was James Jason Britt, B-R-I-T-T, put this out. Videos on Facebook, any kind like Facebook, YouTube, anything I see in terms of, let's say, current social content, I take with a grain of salt. It's a consequence of both age and perhaps a degree of cynicism, and a knowledge that with the current technologies, you can manipulate photographs. I mean, photographs used to be evidence, the evidence of your own eyes. Well, you can't trust the evidence of your own eyes anymore. The technology has advanced to the point that they could probably manipulate photos and the pixels and have me shaking hands with Hitler. You can't even trust the evidence of your own eyes. I've seen some incredible things done with CGI and photo manipulation. I believe it was Arthur C. Clarke who wrote, "Any sufficiently advanced technology is not too indistinguishable from magic." But I digress. There was this video surfaced by this Brit gentleman about what's going on today in Seattle. So I'm watching this. I'm horrified. I am absolutely horrified. And then the cynic kicks in. Cui bono, who benefits, right? Cui bono, the legal term, the Latin term. What would be a motivation of doing this if it is a false video? What would be the motivation? Inflammatory? Right-wing inflammatory propaganda? The demonization of the social justice warriors and the loony left? And then the next question is, what is the probability? Now, my own personal opinion, I tend to believe what he's putting out, and I will explain. My own personal life experiences. Again, in encountering social justice warriors and people who are making pronouncements and initiating movements from a standpoint of morality and a true desire for social justice and for social responsibility, social progress, whatever. I have seen these people who mean well. I have seen their movements hijacked by fanatics and opportunists. We saw what was a legitimate protest against the egregious death of Floyd George devolve into rioting, looting. This had nothing to do with protest for the death of a criminal, I grant you, but still egregious treatment, horrible treatment at the hands of the police. Okay, so that's your excuse for looting, robbing, assault, and you're using this as justification? It's bullshit. That's wilding. So now, if this video about Seattle is accurate, what is happening there now is horrific. Literally, it is horrific. When the rule of law and the constraints of consequences are removed, opportunists and dangerous people will come to the fore, and they will hijack moral movements or socially progressive movements. You're talking about people who are more aggressive in their nature, more aggressive in their viewpoint, and opportunistic in the extreme. So then what started off as a moral or a just movement has devolved into a horror story. And again, if this video is accurate, what has happened in Seattle is exactly the kind of thing I fear the most. Unintended consequences. Naive people, or people who are like moral people, seriously, moral people, people with good intent, having their purposes, their movement, their aims hijacked and used to harm others. An excuse for rape, robbery, looting, home invasions, theft. And they're sitting there saying, we didn't want this to happen. We didn't mean that. We didn't know that this would happen. Seriously, your immaturity, your lack of a decent education, your lack of a grounding in reality, and you have opened the door for the animals to walk in. And you didn't realize this would happen. So for all your vaunted morality, to you people I say, for all your vaunted morality, your desire for social justice, you have created a monster. You have created a monster. You have created violence. You have created crimes of the most horrible kind against innocent people. You started this. You opened the door. And I'm horrified. I am horrified. This is the U.S. And normally I don't get too involved in U.S. politics. But the horrible thing to me is very often what happens in the United States, that loony-less stupidity comes here. In a more Canadian version, which is sort of like polite wilding, if you will. By Canadian standards, what they're doing is violation of the rule of law, violation of individual rights in many cases. But again, their fanaticism justifies this in their head. We're doing this for the best of reasons. That it could devolve into the same degree of violence in the U.S., I don't think so. We don't have the division that they have. And I think the rule of the mob is not as extreme as it is in the United States. Canadian Antifa, for all that I despise them and that they are violent, are nowhere near as violent as their U.S. counterparts, thank God. But I see this as another devolution of our society and societal values. And back again to the educational system is where I lay this. I'm watching the Liberal government jump on this. I've gone on and on about liberal hypocrisy, but this is a game like my godfathers. You don't see it? The Liberal government, and Trudeau and his claims of systemic racism. We don't have systemic racism in Canada. Cooler heads are sitting there saying, this is bullshit. We don't have systemic. Are there racists? Absolutely. Is it the sole purview of the Caucasian? Absolutely not. Trudeau babbles emptily on about divisive. Divisive or divisive? I learned divisive, tomato, tomato. About divisive. I loved accusing the Conservatives of indulging in divisive politics. And what is he doing? Fracturing us, dividing us along racial lines. That's divisive. That is manufacturing a crisis that doesn't exist. My own personal experience and the thousands of people I've met and many jobs I've had in the different strata of society I've worked in, to say that Canada is systemically racist is a fucking lie. It's a lie. But it fans the flames of racial divide. I personally feel that the Liberal Party has probably set back race relations in Canada by a good 20 to 30 years with his crap. And yet he will accuse the Conservatives of being divisive. Could you be more blatantly hypocritical? Jagmeet Singh, because a Quebec sitting politician shot down one of his motions, one of his touchy feel-good garbage motions, and had the nerve to call him a racist. So these things are brought up, racism, where it doesn't exist, and it fans the flame of racial disharmony, of Canadian disunity. And if you think about it, is this deliberate? Is this an attempt to keep us fractured as Canadians so that we cannot pull together to unseat this horribly corrupt, inefficient, and lying, hypocritical government? Is it unintended consequences or is it deliberate? Well, you decide. But no matter what, my friends, my fellow Canadians, open your eyes and look at this government dispassionately, coldly, logically, objectively, and see what they're doing to this country of ours. And tell me that you can still support them? I understand passion. I am passionate in my love of this country. I'm passionate in the things I believe in. I am passionate in my love of my friends and those who are close and near and dear to me. I am passionate about these things. I do not allow my passions and my feelings and my emotions to override logic or to override common sense or to override fact. If they would teach this in school, if more Canadians would start, especially young Canadians, I don't know if any of them watch this, but if you would sit down with older, cooler, wiser heads and talk, not scream, not argue, talk, civil debate, you would learn so much, and you would learn how much garbage and how much you are victims of propaganda, loony left propaganda. So what can I say? I'm watching my country being harmed, and it breaks my heart. I am saddened beyond my ability to express it for what is happening to my Canada under the rule of those idiotic Liberals, the most corrupt, damaging, venal, lying, hypocritical bunch of treasonous sons of bitches that have ever taken power in a country. My Canada is on the verge of destruction. So I urge you, if you love this country, stand up, be counted, get active. Thank you, and have a good morning.